having me, and of course the Young Americans Foundation for bringing this event together. We have a lot to talk about, and I want to hear from as many of you as possible. So if you're a liberal in the audience, want to raise your hand? Self-identify? All right, awesome. Congratulations. I appreciate you being here, and I hope you learned something. And the fact that you are here means that you're open and minded enough to want to listen. I hope you read my books. I hope you read and watch all the things that the Southern Poverty Law Center says that you shouldn't read or watch.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe you learned something, and my advice to other young liberals who may be watching on the live stream is don't be a sheep. Question authority, save yourselves. And if you're unwilling to do so, then I can't help you. None of us can help you, no matter how many lectures we do. It's a lost cause, and it's time to move on. I've done these YAP events for nearly 20 years now, and usually such speeches are aimed at the left and the Democrats to show how they're wrong, they're evil, they have double standards, they're the real haters, they are the real racists. All of those things are true, and I've made these arguments in earnest for many, 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 many years. But tonight is not about you, lefties. Tonight, my remarks are directed at the young men and women of this country who identify as America First conservatives. I was going to ask how many of you identify as such, how many of you are proud Americans for American freedom and sovereignty. And from the room, I hear that we are the majority, and we're the majority in this room, and we're the majority in this country. I know what it's like to be in your shoes, feeling marginalized on a crazy college campus or wherever you make your life and living, for standing up for your pro-life, pro-gun, pro-truly free speech, pro-Western values and your faith, and for fighting for our country. I also have two teenagers who have been through experiences like you have, sitting in classrooms where abject stupidity and emotionalism have replaced logic, reason, and the pursuit of truth. And that is why I will not be using this blessed and privileged platform and my position to insult you, to marginalize you, or to shout you down. Just a couple of days ago, here on this very campus, someone I know, a former Fox News colleague, Kimberly Guilfoyle, sneered that young conservatives, men in MAGA hats, asking inconvenient questions, were somehow rude losers who could only get dates online and who were embarrassing their parents. There's another speaker, somebody I've known a long time, and you all know him, Ben Shapiro, who unfortunately repeatedly denigrated, let's be civil, repeatedly denigrated, so I can finish my sentence here, repeatedly denigrated an entire movement of young men who watch, yes, a YouTuber named Nick Fuentes. And who are these young men seeking answers to tough questions, the same questions that I've been asking out loud for 25 plus years about where America is headed. These young men were mocked as masturbating losers in their basements who share memes. And I will tell you that as a mom with brilliant, right-thinking kids who, yes, live in my basement and who, yes, share memes, I found this obsessive reference, and many on the so-called right are obsessed with it, obsessed with young people's dating habits and lives. These are prominent adult conservative media personalities, much older than their targets. It's tellingly defensive, it's cringe, it's touchy, and it's also creepy. Here is my message to the new generation of America Firsters, exposing the big lies of the anti-American open borders establishment and its controlled opposition. If I were your mom, I'd be proud as hell. I want you to know that you are not alone, that it's important for you to know that not everyone who belongs to generations older than you has sat idly by while America rotted from the inside. Not all Gen Xers like me, or boomers, are mindlessly stupefied by the bread and circuses entertainment dished out by so-called conservative media. Not all of us have occupied ourselves solely with owning libs and reciting clunky MAGA rap anthems while America crumbles. I'm old enough to have lived and worked right here in California when it was a red state. I was here in the 1990s when America First patriots fought valiantly to protect it. This month, as the informed, marks the 25th anniversary of the passage of Proposition 187, the Save Our State initiative. It was spearheaded by boomer grassroots sovereignty activists right here in Southern California, people who became my friends. They were heroes to me, like Glenn Spencer and Barbara Coe. I met them in 1994 when I was just a 24-year-old cub journalist at the Los Angeles Daily News. The media was against them, big business, Hollywood, and the Soros smear machine. They, like so many of the new generation, were labeled hate mongers and xenophobes. I call them patriots. I reported on their movement, and I proudly voted for SOS. Prop 187 passed by a whopping 59 to 41% margin. We old guard patriots, we upholders of the rule of law, we conservers and preservers of one nation under God were the majority back then. And that same year, Republican Governor Pete Wilson, who championed the ballot measure, won with 55% of the vote, including 23% of Latino voters who backed the measure. Unfortunately, and alas, that victory was illusory. A liberal federal judge struck it down, and the same thing happened when a similar set of boomer-era patriots spearheaded SB 1070 in Arizona to turn off illegal immigration spigots in 2010. There were other noble attempts to challenge the open borders elite long before Donald Trump. The godfather of America First, Patrick J. Buchanan. Yeah. Ran in 1992 on the sovereignty platform and has penned prolific books and prophetic editorials and columnists since he started his career in the newspaper business at the age of 23 in the early 1960s. My friend and fellow Coloradan, Tom Tancredo, made border security and immigration enforcement the primary focus of his presidential campaign in 2008. And many of us oldsters in the conservative blogosphere and talk radio led the battle against the Bush Rove Chamber of Commerce amnesties in 2000 and 2007, and yes, you can boo lustily. These so-called conservatives in Open Borders Inc. were the ones making common cause with the radical identity politics left. Before there was Charlie Kirk, there was Paul Ryan, and John McCain, and Jack Kemp. The same establishment beltway crack weasels denigrating the new generation of America Firsters now were the ones who actively obstructed and smeared the previous generation as racists and xenophobes and anti-Semites. These were the ones who were either actively obstructing or passively sitting on the sidelines at cocktail parties or in green rooms or on cruise ships, schmoozing while America burned. But all of the efforts to beat back the tide were for naught. Math had already sealed California's ineluctable shift to the left by the time Prop 187 was launched. It wasn't a backlash to Pete Wilson that turned California blue as the lying liars of the Talking Points GOP stooge set continue to propagandize to this day. It's a lie, and I call bullshit. And you must too. The two numbers that matter the most are 1965 and 1986. despite Prop 187's valiant attempt to stem the tide, Ted Kennedy's floodgate-busting Hart-Celler Act and Ronald Reagan's Amnesty Codifying Immigration Reform and Control Act paved the way for our half-century-long demographic nightmare. After 1986, amnesty begat amnesty begat amnesty. Mass illegal immigration was compounded by mass legal migration from the third world and jihadist breeding grounds, supplemented by the UN-led refugee resettlement dump that enriched open borders religious moochers from every denomination, Catholic, Lutheran, Jewish, Episcopalian. Add that to expansive guest worker pipelines and multiply it by chain migration. Do the math. Behind closed doors, the Soros SPLC left cackles about the grand hoodwinking of America and the success of their demographic reconquista. Trigger word. In public, they attack any truth tellers as conspiracists peddling the great replacement theory. Oh, like the Soros hitmen of Media Matters who likened me to the Tree of Life synagogue shooter in September for exposing the financiers behind demographic disaster. It isn't a conspiracy theory, it's conspiracy fact. Who cares what the Media Matters monkeys say? I don't. I don't care. But you know who does? Conservatism, Inc., the rights subsidiary of Open Borders, Inc., filled with smug and complacent coastal elites who tremble at Soros and the SPLC's defamatory labels and who thirstily seek the constant approbation of leftists who will always hate them. It used to be that conservatives were for facts. Liberals were for feelings. Now it is considered racist or cynical to look at lockstep liberal voting patterns of waves of amnestied and naturalized immigrants and fear for the future. Voting patterns are malleable, we are told. I call. Let's look at the exit polls on Asian American voters who turned out for last week's national elections. Asian American voter ID was split 51-10 D's over R's in Virginia, 80-16 D's over R's for the House of Delegate votes there, and 81-15 D's over R's for the state Senate. Asian American voters supported stricter gun control 71-20. And they supported impeachment 64-17. The top presidential candidates for those surveyed were Biden, Warren, and Sanders. In Philadelphia, Asian American voters' ID split was 65-6 D's over R's. They voted for the Dem mayoral candidate 74-3, and their top three presidential candidates were Biden, Warren, and Yang. Asian Americans in Philadelphia favored impeachment 68-7. In Houston, Texas, yeehaw, Asian American voter ID split 30-30 D's over R's. Woo! The top presidential candidate was Trump at 38, Biden at 15, and Warren at 12. And Asian Americans in Houston supported more gun control by 58-24. What is wrong with you? And were evenly split on impeachment 41-41. Time and again, the Beltway, deep-pocketed GOP Republicans and their strategists have given in on amnesty, H-1B, and identity politics appeasing initiatives. And yet, the voting numbers among Asians, Hispanics, Muslims, and blacks for that matter has hardly budged. Newsflash. It's not gonna budge. Do the math. This was my gentle maternal admonition to young people who were involved in the movement to persuade immigrants and minorities to exit the left and vote right. Of course, it's a good thing to reach out to non-traditional constituencies. But whatever dent you make in 2020 will be inconsequential compared to the relentless influx of 80-20 immigrants, including the 1 million new green card holders every year on a path to citizenship, plus the 800,000 DACA recipients hurtling towards citizenship, plus the 500,000 F1 foreign student visa holders that Conservatism Inc. and Silicon Valley are itching to award green cards and citizenship to. Of course, you know what I'm referring to. I wrote a piece for American Greatness on the stupidity of stapling green cards to the diplomas of unlimited numbers of F1 students. Now, I understand that people have had epiphanies on this, to which I say, I suppose better late than never. But if you are going to be dispatched as a conservative leader crusading for America first, perhaps you should have thought more than 1 minute about the policies that you're espousing. And these late-minute epiphanies, which curiously are not explained, what is it? What new information was gained that enlightened you to these things? Are often botched, and the doubling down of stupidity is also cringe. Word to conservative leaders, don't be cringe. Don't be cringe. It is wrong to misinform college students on campus, American college students on campus, that the staple program somehow will benefit the American economy because there will be electoral gains reaped. Call bullshit. I call bullshit. The numbers do not lie. And let's get our details right. If you're going to walk back the staple plan, you're not walking back awarding the F1 student visas. That's not what Charlie Kirk said. He didn't understand that what he was advocating was a clear path to citizenship for unlimited numbers of F1 student visa holders from around the world who will directly compete with American students who've been deluded into thinking, especially if they are STEM majors, that they will have a guarantee of good jobs in this country. That's not America first. That's Microsoft first. Yeah. And American students last. America First activists are now being accused of engaging in dangerous, quote, identity politics and, quote, ethno-nationalism. I have been called a Filipino brown white supremacist. The hypocrisy overflows. It's the detractors of America First on the right who have shamelessly indulged in identity politics tokenism, promoting a rainbow of brand ambassadors who don't know what the hell they're talking about when it comes to the most existential issue of our time. These are the people who immediately smear critics with the same old worn brushes used by the radical left. America First detractors indignantly demand that we young and old sovereignty advocates disavow, disavow, disavow. Well, the conservative inkers now have their knives out for me, and they always did. Recycling Media Matters, Oppo research, uncovering things that I've never covered up in the 25 plus years that I've reported and advocated on sovereignty issues over the last quarter century. They want me to disavow Nick Fuentes and V-Dare and Peter Brimelow and Faith Goldie and Gavin McInnes and the Proud Boys and Steve King and Laura Loomer and on and on. They want me to do what they've done to brilliant academics and intellectuals who've told the truth, like Amy Wax at the University of Pennsylvania and Darren Beatty and Jason Briscoe. No, I don't agree with every last thing that all of the people that I've listed have ever said or written or published or tweeted or thought in their heads and their inside voices or outside. But I will not disavow any of them, and I will not join the deplatforming witch hunters who hypocritically call themselves free speech and culture warriors. I disavow violence. I disavow hatred of America. I disavow the systematic bipartisan betrayal of American students, citizens, and families by cynical politicians who promised for 20 years to build a wall, end the diversity visa lottery, end chain migration, all the memorized talking points to deflect their true agenda. I am not impressed. I'm not going to rehabilitate someone who has thoughtlessly recycled GOP talking points GOP, while screwing you. I disavow Republicans who told us to hold our noses and vote for open border sellouts because, you know, we support the Second Amendment and religious liberty, we're against abortion, and we were told over and over again by the elites, you don't have any other choice. Where are the calls to disavow the organizers of CPAC who banned young nationalists who are the future of this country? The leaders of CPAC who credentialed and allowed into the building right-wing watch hitmen, Soros-funded prophets, posing as so-called journalists. I disavow the bullshit.
Yeah.
Young people, left or right, I implore you, do your homework, open your eyes, join forces, or else you're screwed, and we're all screwed. Fight the controlled opposition, don't become it. The torch is being passed. The populist youth movement is global. It's bigger than just being a Trump supporter or a talking points GOP gate smasher. Show those who are willing to listen how to do the math. Rise to this occasion and save our country. Thank you.